Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast, with your host, Raghu, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center, New York City, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show, and welcome to Thursday. Episode number, Mara?
341.
341. Pretty good. 341 days of the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are studying the sacred literature of ancient India, the essence of all of it. There's a lot of sacred literature out there in India. Canons of literature.
Canons.
Metaphysical things, mystical things, astrological things, how to design a city, how to lay out what else? It's like books and books of stuff.
A lot of it's all there.
Attaining mystical siddhis, but this is considered the highest. How to reconnect. I say reconnect because we were connected. We just forgot that connection. Isn't it interesting? We had something so precious, we just forgot it.
It's encouraging. It makes you think, okay, we can get it back, right?
Yeah, not only, and it's the process that you don't, generally when you think of a spiritual path, you think, okay, this path is trying to convert me to their path. Wrong.
Not like that.
Yoga system, the Sanatana Dharma, is to help us remember what we already are. I can't convert Kaustubha to being a spirit soul. He already is a spirit soul. Friendship.
But you can help me remember it. You help me remember it.
Yeah,
all the time.
we help people remember, and we help them remember by remembering what we are. And this is the process. It's a simple process going on forever. You talk about eternal things instead of getting sucked into the temporary world. Temporary world is like, we're like this today. Like we were talking about Mara before. Like, Mara, what music did you listen to? You weren't into hardcore music? She's like, no, I was into reggae and hip hop and
Rage Against the Machine.
What else did she say?
Yeah.
Rage Against the Machine. Yeah, I was thinking like, okay, that's like temporary information. Now she's into something else. What are we always eternally into? Well, we're always eternally a spirit soul. Sometimes we don't connect with that. And so we're sort of like lost trying to find ourselves in the material world, trying to invest love in the material world. And the problem with it is it's all temporary. So we try to find some deeper connection and find deeper connection with every living being on this planet, but in a more significant way. We see them as spirit souls, not as friends, not as enemies, not even as like family members. Even our family members, they're connected to us in a temporary way. Papa Tony is only your papa for a few days, a few decades.
Oh, that's hard to swallow there, really.
Yeah, it's a tough pill to swallow. My mom couldn't swallow that. When I told her we weren't actually related.
I wonder what Papa Tony was feeling like when Mara was playing those Rage Against the Machine records in there. So he was probably hearing that and saying like, oh, what is she getting into?
What's she getting into? Got to get her some bhajans. Anyway, but I wonder if you take birth again with your family members.
It's Krishna fulfills your desires, right?
If you're like very attached to them, you mean?
Well, I'm saying if Krishna's happy to fulfill your desires, Dhruva Maharaj went back with his mother, didn't he?
Yeah. Well, you know that astrologer or the mystic who told me that Rocco, my son, was my father, my previous life.
Yeah.
It was the more I hang out with my son, I was like, he's just like my dad. The mystic was right. He was right on.
Well, that's when he asked the famous question.
He
He said,
asked,
"Does that mean the grandma? I was married to grandma?"
I was married to Grandma Terry. I was like, yes, it does. She's a wonderful woman. All right, let's get into this sweetness. It's all sweet because the spirit soul is sweet. Isn't that interesting? This book is so sweet. Krishna is so sweet because we, underneath my layers of material ambition, underneath that, all my gross material desires, there is something very sweet underneath. I'm trying to excavate it now, like a, who excavates?
Archaeologists.
Archaeologist. I'm trying to excavate my spiritual life. So we're going to start with these very secretive mantras. Narayanam namaskritya naram shaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva bhadreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service to the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnanat Marandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurunmadatam Nena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances to my spiritual masters who have opened my eyes, which were blinded by the darkness of ignorance, with the ointment of knowledge. We are in a sweet spot, Canto 3, and we are on text 17,
Correct.
speaking about Vidura.
Yeah. He just got insulted, right?
He was hurt. He was hurt, but
But
he saw it as a divine plan,
Mhm.
right?
yeah. So he had
Our
that. Yeah,
life.
that's right. We talked about that yesterday. How on the emotional level he was hurt, but on the intellectual level he was seeing things really clearly, and he turned the negative into a positive.
If you plan on getting hurt, it's the material world. We can't always just create a safe space where I can't get hurt. We're going to get hurt in this material world. Why? Because people screw up. People say things. Sometimes I'm conditioned to be hurt, even when people don't mean anything. We were saying yesterday, I was in New York, especially. New York's the city of this. People are like, "What are you looking at?" Nothing. I was. If you're not from New York, like when I first went to New York, my parents trained me never look at anybody. Just look at the ground.
Makes it hard to get around.
Never looked at. I told my kids, because my kids were little in New York City, I said, look at the ground. Just don't look at someone. Don't talk to people. They might take you or kill you.
You didn't really tell them that.
And I did. I did say don't look at people. You know, there's a thing. New Yorkers, you don't like to look at New Yorkers. So anyway, this whole idea of like being offended, easily offended. If you live your life easily offended, it becomes problematic for your well-being and your peace of mind.
Yeah.
And what does he put in his place? My life is divine. My life is in divine hands. So here he was legitimately offended. His nephew was incredibly offensive to him, but he said, you know what? This is Krishna's plan. This is Krishna's plan. That's a great statement for all of us. This is Krishna's plan. How is this going to fold? How is Krishna's divine plan going to fold out? And the more we look at it, the more we realize Krishna's plan is so much better than my plan. I've got like a puny plan. I'm going to do this, Krishna. Hear me out.
If it was all our plan, it would just be like comfort.
It would just be like comfort, various types of food.
Yeah, material enjoyment. That would be like our plan.
Yeah.
But we wouldn't grow through that.
There wouldn't be much growth. And of course, when I look back at my life, some of my like most cherished times were like when some reversal happened, some hairpin turn, some material sinkhole. Things just fell apart.
Hairpin turn, material sinkhole.
Those are good ones, aren't they? Hairpin turn, material sinkhole. How come I've never heard of sinkholes until like recently, like in the last 5 years?
Really?
Did they
have
ever
them all
happen
over?
before?
Yeah, like Florida, I think has sinkhole.
No, but I know, but yeah, but real rise like within the last 8 years, right? I never heard of
No,
sinkholes
they go
growing
back.
up.
They go back.
They go back sinkholes. I don't
sure.
remember sinkholes. Mara,
Mara, can you find out the earliest example of a sinkhole?
Yeah, I think they go back though. I think
Like
Kaustubha's
Egypt?
right.
I don't think they're a new thing.
anyway.
All right.
And I like that analogy though, material sinkhole, like when the bottom just falls out and you're like, ah,
It's like, in other words, everything seems like solid.
Seems solid.
But then you can see underneath it's all hollow.
Yeah, yeah. That's the material world. Every now and then, the whole bottom falls out. Okay. I guess Mara's not doing that research.
That's your next song, Raghu, for Shelter.
The bottom fell out.
Oh, I was thinking material sinkhole, but
Materials. Okay.
however you feel inspired.
Okay. Let's
go
dive
with
in here. Text 17. By his piety, Vidura achieved the advantage of the pious Kauravas. Having leaving Hastinapur, he took shelter of many places of pilgrimage, which are the Lord's lotus feet. They're saying the places of pilgrimage are not different than the Lord's lotus feet.
I think that probably indicates like that's where you begin your approach. Right.
Oh, took shelter of many places, which are the Lord's lotus feet.
In other words, like you bowed when you meet someone respect, you bow down to their feet. You start at the feet, or when you see deities, like you take darshan in a temple, you're meant to first look at the feet and then go up. So I would interpret that meaning that those holy places are the place where you go to approach God.
In a humble way. Okay, all right. With a desire to gain a high order of pious life, he traveled to holy places where thousands of transcendental forms of the Lord are situated. If you're new to pilgrimage, you're like, what are they talking about? Thousands of forms? There are thousands.
Temples.
There are thousands of temples when you go to these holy places.
Yeah.
He began
So just to recap just a bit. So Vidura was giving good advice to his brother, the blind king, which was very much averse. The blind king's son, Vidura's nephew Duryodhana, the evil Duryodhana. He couldn't take it because it was basically criticism of him. He was saying, "Don't listen to your son." And so then he just, with very harsh words, said, "Throw this guy out. Leave him with nothing but his breath," even though he had nothing but good intentions and was always trying to help. So at that point, it said he put aside his bow, left his bow at the door, and then it was a life change, right? A change in dharma for him now, and he became rather than being like a political advisor and consultant, and, a famous person in the city, he became a no one in a sense. He left everything behind and became a pilgrim, left that identity behind, and adopted the identity of the pilgrim.
So now on text 18, he says, he began to travel alone, this pilgrim, thinking only of Krishna through various holy places like Ayodhya, Dwarka, Mathura. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
He goes to these places, like we're attracted to these places. Dwarka is where Krishna lived, and his kingdom was. Mathura was where he appeared. He traveled where the grove, hill, orchard, river, and lake are all pure and sinless, and where the forms of the unlimited decorate the temples. Thus he performed the Pilgrim's Progress.
The Pilgrim's Progress.
The Pilgrim's Progress.
That's a book. It's an old book. Do you know that?
No.
The
Like a
Pilgrim's
Vedic
Progress.
book?
No, it's like it's a book from like the 1600s, I think. And I would imagine Prabhupada came across that book, like in his training. It was a British book, a Christian book, a story. It was like a story, which like uses a lot of metaphor about someone's progress to, returning to God in a sense. Yeah. So I think that's where I got that. Yeah. How do I know that?
Yeah.
I looked it up.
Oh, cool.
Looked it up. But it's interesting here that it says he traveled where the grove, hill, orchard, river, and lake are all pure and sinless. Now, what does that mean, right?
sinless groves, sinless rivers,
Yeah. You know,
sinless hills. I don't know.
you
I
what
don't know,
think?
Kaustubha.
I have a
Riddle me.
clue. I have a
Riddle me.
riddle me this. I have
Riddle
a-
me this.
What I think of when I read that, what I thought of was one time I was on pilgrimage. I was on pilgrimage with Raghunath Swami and about 5,000 other people in Vrindavan, right? And we went to, it was
A lot of
nighttime.
people. There's a lot of people.
Yeah. And it was nighttime, and we went to, we were in Varshana, which is part of the larger Vraja Vrindavan area, but it's the village where Radharani was born and lived. And we went to a place that Radha Swami lived when he was a sadhu back in, when he first went to Vrindavan, up on this hill called. You're leaning forward. Wait,
I'm
wait
like
a second.
thinking. Oh, well, there's 4 hills in Barshana
Yeah,
for the 4 heads of Lord Brahma.
correct.
What is this hill called? I don't know. I can't remember.
Mandir.
Mandir.
Right, there's
Mandir.
a
The
little
temple of
temple.
the mind.
Temple of
the
anger.
anger. The
Of anger. Yeah, this was
Oh, the anger.
it's a very esoteric lila or pastime of Radha and Krishna took place there, where Radha becomes upset with Krishna. But it's like, it's a very remote place. It's in a very holy place, and to get up to it, you have to climb these steps, right? There's this long staircase.
Yeah.
And when you get there, there's just a very simple temple. Especially even then, they've since done some renovation or some work up there, but at that time there was just a very simple temple. And Radha Swami spoke. It was nighttime. It was really beautiful. He gave an incredible talk, and he talked about that place. And he said, I always remember this. He said, this place is so holy. And one of the reasons it's so holy is because no materialist will ever come here. It's like there's nothing for them, right?
That's a great way to put it. There's
Yeah.
nothing for them.
Yeah, you got to climb these long steps to get to this little temple where it wasn't even like some beautiful architecture. It was
Yeah,
like,
it's humble. It's humble. It's got a cool
Yeah.
painting.
yeah. So
Is that
Yeah.
where the blinds?
no, that's more Coutier you're thinking
That's
of,
more
where he.
couture.
Yeah, but that's right. Like that's just the next
That's
hill
the other
over.
hill away.
Yeah.
It's like the neighboring hill.
Yeah, but so he said, all these years, thousands of years, no one comes here except people with, like, in their heart, they want to understand, the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So that place was like sinless, it was pure, no one was up there for any other reason except for the most special spiritual reasons. So this strikes me like that. He's going to these holy places, these maybe remote places where materialists don't go there.
That's a good one. There's nothing for them.
There's nothing for him, but there's everything
Ah.
for the one who wants,
Yeah.
who wants God.
It's like, what's that Gita verse? What's night for the?
Mhm.
What's that? It's a great verse. I should.
Even
why don't
for
I
the
know that verse?
introspective, what's night for the introspective stage is like day for the what is it? What is it?
Materially absorbed.
Yeah, and vice versa.
What's daytime for the material? We should find that verse. Mara,
Are you on there? Pull that one up.
she's like a
There
break.
she goes.
She's on break. There's no break, Mara.
Do you know what chapter it is?
Oh, I'm embarrassed to say it's in my mind, but is it
Oh,
the
I
second
just read
chapter?
it.
Towards the end of the second chapter.
Third
I'm
chapter.
forgetting. I'm forgetting that.
Just Google it.
Yeah.
Introspective sage night.
Bhagavad Gita.
Bhagavad
Someone's
Gita.
gotta share this.
Yeah, what?
On there.
Oh, 269.
269. Yeah, okay.
There we
It was
go.
in the second chapter.
Okay.
Thank you, Amaya. Amaya, he's like a
He's good.
What is night for all? Do you want it? What is night for all beings?
Amaya, oh, hold on a second. I think Amaya might be from a Brahmin family. They train these kids at young ages to
train
study
'em
the
up.
Gita. Train 'em
Amaya
up.
also likes Rage Against the Machine, for the record.
Okay, there you go.
Well, he forgot his
What were
identity.
his parents
He forgot his
Kill it, won't
identity.
do it.
We're here to remind him.
Sorry to throw him under the bus with that.
I was sent by his father to remind him who he is.
All right. What is night for all beings is a time of awakening for the self-controlled, and the time of awakening for all beings is night for the introspective sage.
Yeah.
Read that again. That is so good.
What is night for all beings is the time of awakening for the self-controlled. And the time of awakening for all beings is night for the introspective sage.
That's worth the whole book right there. That one verse. All right.
Oh, by the way, we distributed. I got to get the results for our little Bhagavad Gita drive.
Oh yeah. What did we do? We don't know.
I'll bring it on tomorrow.
I
I'll
think
let you
we
know
did
tomorrow.
good because I ordered mine and I talked to the lady there
Yeah.
and I ordered them and she said, "Well, what's your name?" I said, "I'm Raghunath. I'm with the Wisdom of the Sages." And she's like, "The Wisdom of the Sages." She's like, "You guys distributed so many Bhagavad Gita." She really, once I told her my name, she like cracked. She was so excited. I think we
That's
distributed a lot of Bhagavad Gitas. So thank you everybody who did that.
Yeah. And
I like
everybody's
these.
name was included in the yagna that took place in Kurukshetra.
They really do these, by the way. If you were like, "Yeah, really, you're gonna really mention my name at the yagya at Kurukshetra," really? Like in America, we don't do stuff like that. They actually do that. They actually keep lists of names, read them off, say them.
And
in
each
front
one,
of
they pour some ghee into the fire or some grains in the fire, whatever.
there's these things like in Haridwar. There are these Brahmins and they do offerings for your family. And families come from all over.
Yeah.
I bet Aravind or Aditi or Amaya and Madhumati could tell you this, but you go there and you make some offering and they have records of your families who have gone there for like hundreds of years.
Well, what do they ask you when they're doing it?
What is your gotra?
What's your gotra?
It's like your family name. It's interesting. We get very proud of our family heritage. Like when we were brahmacharis, we all went to Henry's house. Henry, what a sweet man.
Of course.
Haridas. He's got these pictures of his house. Like, well, that's my great grandfather. That's my great grandfather. That's my great 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 grandfather. I was like, whoa, you know who your great 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 grandfather is? That's unbelievable. And it's for an Americans, we're like, yeah, that's pretty cool. They came over on the Mayflower. That's even cooler. They, your crest, your family crest. Indians, they know their gotra. They know from what great sage they were born from.
Yeah,
they
Agastya Muni or something.
Yeah. Kaudinya, Vashista, Bardwaj. Let's ask who's on the show tonight. Ask Aravinda.
Wait, we got to get Aditi. Aditi
where's Aravind? Aravind, put up your gotra. Amaya, Madhumati. I want to hear your family gotra, please. Put it right up on the chat board.
So it means that the family lineage that tracing all the way back to like the beginning of the Bhagavad.
Check it out. Who's
Gotra?
Aravind is from Kashyapas. Amaya is from Parashara. Amaya is actually related to Vyasadeva. Parashara is Vyasadev's father. Vibhu is from Garga. Garga Muni is the family priest of Krishna. Look at this amazing stuff.
Now you know what Prabhupada said that we should say?
Naitruva Kashyapa Gotra Madhumati. These are exalted families. I'm from like a Italian pig farmer. That's what my family lineage.
No, but Prabhupada, he said that when we go to the temples, how we should answer that question. He's for all his Western disciples.
Oh yeah, Prabhupada said you just say you're from, because we don't have a family. I'm from the Italian pig farmers. You have to, when a priest like that, you say, I'm from the Achyuta Gotra. So why is that?
Achyuta is a name for Krishna. So it means we're part of Krishna's family.
That's why he said, oh, okay. I always wondered why he said that.
Yeah.
We're from the Achyuta Gotra. So hear that? Although others like myself who were born in pig farming families, if you ever go to India and meet a Brahmin and they ask you, what Gotra are you from? You say, Achyuta Gotra. Achyuta Gotra. That's
means
pretty impressive.
Family. Can't beat that.
Parashara. Garga. This is great. Ask any Indian their gotra. It's so fascinating. Okay, where are we at now?
So I guess we're on text 19.
They have like a lot to live up to, don't they?
Well, that's the kind of pressure
that's the kind of pressure that drives Indians to like these doing great things. Okay. Text 19.
Yes.
While also traversing the earth, he simply performed duties to please the Supreme Lord Hari. His occupation was pure and independent. He was constantly sanctified by taking his bath in holy places. Although he was in the dress of a mendicant and had no hair dressing, nor a bed on which to lie. Thus, he was always unseen by his various relatives,
All right. There's a lot of information in this short little verse, right?
like hairdressing.
Hairdress. He had no one dressing his hair because normally people they comb their hair, right? He wasn't doing that.
He didn't have any.
He wa-
Go ahead.
w-
Unpack this, please, before I unpack
Well,
hairdressing.
let's read the short commentary first.
Okay. Let's see.
I got it. The first and
First,
foremost.
and,
Go
for it, go for it, go for it.
The first and foremost duty of a pilgrim. All right, if you want to know, here it comes. You ready? Is to satisfy the Supreme Lord Hari, satisfy Krishna. That's what it's all about. Don't get mixed up. It's not tourism, right? It's I'm doing this to satisfy you, right?
You can get lost in tourism at these places.
It's not material pleasure. It's not.
It's not wonder. It's not wanderlust.
It's not like these travel shows that they have now, where it's like you know, okay, there's the food and there's the this and there's that. I mean, all that's there, but
It's really food. People want food and drink, isn't it? Food, drink.
the food and the drink has to be related to pleasing the Supreme Lord Hari, and then it all
Yeah.
ties in, right? Like when you have your aloo tiki and over there in front of the Bunky Bihari temple, it's all
It's all
tied
to
in.
please. It's all to please Bihari Ji.
Of course.
It's not for me. It's for the Lord.
It makes him happy. He's happy when he sees you happy. So the first and foremost duty of a pilgrim is to satisfy the Supreme Lord Hari. While traveling as a pilgrim, one should not be worried about pleasing society. Right?
Society suckers.
Society suckers.
Not agnostic front.
And I was telling Raghunath earlier that the lyrics to Society Sucker from Agnostic
Wait a
Front-
second. You gotta give a backstory. We have a lot of people from Brahmin families who have no idea who agnostic front is.
If you are from Parsha or Kashyap's Gotra, you may not be familiar with Agnostic Front.
Yeah. Yeah. Madhu Mati has no idea who agnostic front is. It would like shock her to know.
Bhakti Louis, he knows Agnostic Front.
Yeah.
Jiva.
Lyra Juno knows.
Lyra.
Mara doesn't know.
Jiva
So
knows.
Agnostic Front was a band we grew up with.
Yeah.
Jivachi Life Coaching is wearing a sweatshirt. I wonder if these guys get some type of pious credit to Agnostic Front for like inspiring us in other ways. It was like there was music that we grew up with, and a lot of people on the show. There's a big demographic that grew up listening to this hard music. Oh, Mohan's got Agnostic Front tattoo.
Look at
What?
that. All right.
That's his Gotra.
So they had a song
Agnostic-
called Society Sucker.
Yeah.
It had some poignant lyrics to it, straight out of Bhagavatam, in my opinion. But in any case, let us move on.
Let's keep going now.
All right. So he says, but it's important while traveling as a pilgrim, and this is why I think that hardcore lifestyle of us, it made it a little easier for us to jump full steam ahead into practicing bhakti, because
We were
already
into
didn't care
rejected.
we rejected society already, right? So while traveling as a pilgrim, one should not be worried about pleasing society suckers. There's no need to depend on social formalities or occupation or dress. Interesting, right? Because these were all like in Vidura's previous dharma. These are all like important. He had to dress right, right? He had to always be concerned about how society was perceiving him and so on.
He was
As
like
a pilgrim,
yeah.
it wasn't.
I mean,
that wasn't the
you
case.
and me were like freaks. We were freaks,
Mhm.
freaks of the world. But if you think about it, people like Vidura, they were like the sophisticated diplomats of the world.
Yeah.
And so they have to walk away from that. You know, I heard this. I've got to do some fact checking on this, but I heard Bhakti Siddhanta, Prabhupada's guru,
Mhm.
when people would join the ashram, if they were from
Mhm.
Brahmin families, they would have to give up their Brahmin thread, which is a huge thing in an Indian culture, to give up your Brahmin thread.
Haven't heard that. Maybe I have heard that. I don't know. We
Fact-
got to look into that.
I'm going to fact check that too. Karam told me that.
Okay.
Because this is big part of, to be a Vaishnav and to be a mix into strict Hindu culture. It's like a very sophisticated thing. But we were sort of like, runaways, sort of vague. We were just like, I'm over family. I'm over society. I'm going to
Yeah.
live in wherever we lived. And it was like a real rejection. And therefore, to embrace an entire new culture was sort of, yeah, all right, sure, whatever. I'll have a new identity. But people like Well, yeah, I think where I think
What were you gonna say?
I was like we're like a lot of people are from the Indian bodies, like a
More
Maya,
cultured, yes.
yeah, culture.
Feeling responsibility towards the family, which is a good
Yeah,
thing.
they have a good karma that we don't have,
Yeah.
but they have this other karma that is can be problematic because their families are so tight and there's so room to get mixed up with it
That you might not branch out and do what you need to do for your spiritual life.
right, because you feel like I have to live this life to please others, and if the others have material ambition, then I'm trapped in that.
Right.
Like I never worried what my mom wanted from me since I was 14 years old. I was like, I'm just doing what I want to do.
That's right.
You know, she didn't have that influence. Um,
So as a pilgrim, Vidura was having that kind of freedom. Right?
yeah.
Okay. So then Prabhupada continues, one should remain always absorbed in the function of pleasing the Lord, thus sanctified by thought and action. One is able to realize the Supreme Lord by the process of the pilgrim's journey. Okay. So let's take a look at the different terms, Sanskrit terms that were mentioned here regarding Vidura's conduct as a pilgrim. You ready? First
Yeah,
one.
this is beautiful.
First one is Medhya. Medhya. Pure.
Where'd you get this from?
It's in the verse. What are you talking about? Where do I get it from? It's right there in the verse.
Oh, okay. This is the next. Okay.
Right? Text 19. Medhya.
Okay.
Right? Pure. Right? What does it mean to be pure in this context, Raghu?
Pure means in your thoughts and in your speech,
Mm-hmm.
in your mind. Like you know when you have an impure mind, and you know when you have a pure mind. You know
Well-
by your motivations.
Well, when we
By
call
your
something pure, it means that there's something external hasn't been mixed into it, right? Like pure
Right.
gold or
pure silver.
So
It's unalloyed with
Yes.
no alloy.
so then, what is the alloy that makes one impure?
Probably these yogic pollutants that they speak about. These kam, krod, lo, mog.
Oh, okay. So what are those translations?
Lust, greed, anger, envy, right? If I'm envious of Kaustubha, I cannot see you for who you are. I see this other version of you. If I have desire towards, suppose I desire a woman or a man, and then I no longer see them as a being, a spiritual being. I see them as something for me to consume almost. I want them, you know. And if I'm seeing through the eyes of greed, this person has a lot of money. I wonder how they can help me, you know, what I can get from them. I'm excited when they come to the room. They're here, my rich friend. It's like, who cares, you know? So like when that's an alloy with your pure soul, you're no longer you know it's just another lens to wear on top of your lenses. It's a colored lens, a
It affects
filter.
your motivation of what you do and how you behave and what you say and all that, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it has. Yeah, I like your explanation. You know, and I think it also has to do with that. His time and his thoughts now were exclusively devoted to God, right? Like even pure of having to deal with more mundane things. He was just like you know that advice. It's sound advice. That if one wants to practice bhakti, practice yoga seriously, there should be hours in the day that are exclusively, purely dedicated to the practice, and there should be certain days of the month exclusively, purely devoted, and certain months of the year exclusively, purely devoted, and certain years of one's life. And so this is Vidura, where it's like, you know, he would naturally be, you know, having hours of the day that were exclusively devoted to his meditation, but at this point in his life, the entire, you know, these years of his life are exclusively devoted, purely devoted like that.
Isn't it cool how like we take people on pilgrimage, but one day we're just going to do the exclusive pilgrimage. We're not taking anyone. We're just wandering around for ourselves, bowing down, hugging trees, bathing, taking sacred dips in rivers.
Yeah,
That's what Indians call it, sacred dips.
they take a dip. Okay.
Take a sacred dip.
So the first was medhya, or pure. The second one was vivikta vritti, independent occupation for living. He was independent, it said.
independent occupation for living.
In other words, well, in the translation, it just said independent. So why? What does that mean, independent?
I don't know.
I think
Stump me. I'm
the way
not
that
that
I-
smart.
the way that I understand is that, like, when he was in his role, in the service of the king, he's dependent on the king, right? He's
Mm.
got a job, he's got a boss, and you got to satisfy that boss, right? But when you're independent, as a wandering mendicant, right, his food, his shelter, all these things that he would, like we get a paycheck, because we're dependent. Someone works for someone, they get a paycheck. It means I'm dependent on that person now.
Sure.
And there's always some level of compromise, compromise of my time, compromise of my energy, compromise of my thoughts.
You're society sucker, basically.
Basically your society sucker.
You're working for somebody. They
Yeah.
purchased you,
to some degree.
right?
So he's, when one walks away as a pilgrim, it's like, I'm no longer society sucker. There's no compromises need to be made. I don't have to compromise my meditation on God to get some money, to get some food, to get some shelter.
That was a shelter single, by the way. No
What's that?
compromise.
No compromise. It's all
It's like
there
you
in
can't even
hardcore.
speak. You can't even speak without quoting a hardcore song.
So he was independent now. It meant he could. It just means all the more he could focus and be, exclusively focused now. It's what yoga means, right? To be able to focus, exclusively like that. So Vivikta Vritti, he was independent. Okay, then the next one, Sada means,
Sada.
you know that,
Always?
always, and Apluta, always sanctified.
Huh.
Always sanctified. Just like, I think this is something that I've seen you do, and I've seen Raghunath Swami do on pilgrimage. We're like at the beginning of the pilgrimage, right? You give a little talk. What do you
I do this? I
Yeah.
do All
Yeah.
right.
And you say, like, let's, more or less what you say is, let's keep it always sanctified, right? Let's not criticize. Let's not waste this time. Let's not, absorb our minds and think, we're on this pilgrimage. Let's make every moment special. Let's, take full advantage of
We
it.
set intentions. We set intentions.
Set intentions.
So it's
yeah.
like parameters, how to
Right.
behave on a pilgrimage.
Yeah.
You get the most out of it.
Yeah. I wasn't there, but I always remember this. Because I heard about it, but it was Raghunath Swami. He took again like 5,000 or 6,000 people on a tour of South India, yatra, on pilgrimage to South India, right? And our buddy Radhakund Prabhu,
Yeah.
who's a monk from the Radha Gopinath temple, Raghunath Swami's temple there in Mumbai. He's one of the main organizers, and when you got to move 5,000 people every day, it's like 200 buses, right? Just where you're going to park them is like a big deal.
Just moving yourself around India is not easily.
Yeah, and then they have a kitchen that's moving around as well, and it's an incredibly huge operation. And one of the on one of those days, there was like some of the arrangements for these 5,000 or 6,000 or 7. I think maybe 7,000.
I don't want to
people.
hear Mara complain about any quantity cooking she has to do in the future. 5,000 people
Yeah.
catering.
Yeah. So on one of those days, or maybe there's a couple instances where the arrangements were less than perfectly smooth. Okay.
Yeah.
So and you could imagine, we got there and the buses weren't there, or the hotels, or whatever. There was it was causing inconvenience for the pilgrims.
Yeah.
And within that community of pilgrims, there began to be some criticism. What's going on? They don't have it together. What's the problem?
Right.
It was like that was going around. And that was brought to Raghunath Swami's attention. And then Raghunath Swami just gave, you ever see him when he gets very grave,
Yes.
right? Because he's so gentle, in all his behavior. He doesn't yell and scream, but if he gets really grave like that, it's a little unsettling. It's like, whoa. And-
He's very much like Vidura himself, isn't he?
Yeah, totally. And so he said, something has happened on our yatra that has never happened previously on our yatras for many, many years. Devotees have begun to, I don't know exactly, the phrasing that he used and all that, but more or less what he expressed was we've fallen into this pattern of not being grateful and appreciative of everything that's being done. You know, everyone is working hard to take on this incredibly difficult operation. And if some inconveniences come, we accept that as God's mercy, right? We don't lower our mind into criticism and fault finding and this and that. So when this says that Vidura was sada apluta, always sanctified, that's I think like that. You know, the effort to keep the pilgrimage always sanctified means I'm not going to let my mind and my thoughts, you know, be dragged down into into those patterns that trap materialists, you know, all the time. Always sanctified. We got to try to keep our life always sanctified, right? Every moment.
Yeah.
Every moment. You know, that's pilgrimage is like that too, right? You go on the pilgrimage, you know, okay, I'm gonna spend this exclusive time with a sanctified mind, so that the idea is that we can begin to be more like that when we're not on pilgrimage, like all the time, right?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why those parameters are in place. And that's why you get like one bad apple on a pilgrim.
They can drag it, start dragging everyone down.
We were talking about that pilgrimage we went on, and there was
Yeah.
a bad apple on it. Because to see Kaustubha crack, it takes a lot to make Kaustubha crack, but he cracked.
Well, I didn't crack
But
that.
no,
bad.
no,
I mean, I got cracked.
It's like when Radha Swami
yeah.
gets grave. It's what I mean. You didn't crack. You didn't lose it. You just got.
When you say it sound like that, it makes it sound like I punched her or something like that.
No, you didn't punch her. You didn't punch her. You just like you chastised her.
Yeah, I just said, hey, you know, this is the reality.
Cut the crap.
Yeah.
But it's like you got to go there. You don't go there with your material consciousness. You don't go there with your material attitudes. You don't walk into sacred circles and bring your old luggage, your crappy luggage that doesn't even work in the material world. It's not like your ego works great for you in the material world anyway. What to speak of the spiritual world? We got to come to spiritual life with our A game, people. Come on.
That's right.
Zip it up. Stop criticizing people. Serve other people. You know, sing in kirtan. You know, don't gossip. These are like common things that don't work in the material world. When you're in pilgrimage, don't bring them there. You know what happens otherwise too? Or then you try to you find somebody else who's weak and you take them down with you. If I'm going down, I'm gonna take as many people as I can.
Take a stupid now. I'm gonna take Raghunath down with me. Okay.
Horrible attitude.
So you want to keep it always sanctified. So we got pure, independent, always sanctified. Now this one's interesting. Adaha, which means the earth. Shayanaha, lying. He was lying on the earth. He was sleeping on the ground, right?
Okay.
In other words, he was living very simply.
You're not going there because the Four Seasons Haridwar.
Right. Yeah.
We're not going for the hotels and like the pool and the game room, and they have a good gym there and breakfast in bed. We're going there as pilgrims. It's just a better way. It's a different way. Even when people go, like younger devotees say, I want to go to Vrindavan, I want to go here, and I want to go there, and I want to go here. No, that's not the mood. Like I want to like consume. Your mood should be you find like the most senior devotee there and say, hey, how can I serve here? And then you'll get that joy that you want. Not to try to I'm going to try to enjoy everything.
You know how you always describe how people go, like, you say, so what? Like, they go on a vacation, they get to some tropical island or whatever, and then it's kind of like, I mean, it's really nice, but then it's kind of like, so what? Right?
Big deal. So what?
Yeah. But what you just described, I think, is so important, that you can go to a place that maybe isn't, like, tropically beautiful or something like that, but is spiritually very special. And you don't have that 4-star hotel with all the luxuries and all of that. And you go there and it's not even how do I enjoy here, it's how do I serve here. But if you go with that motive, right, then that joy, the real joy, like real joy, right, not enjoyment,
Sure,
but like real joy, can manifest in the heart.
Well, I've really had that demonstrated to us, during some retreat weekends we've had at the farm. We'd have some retreat weekends where we have a special guest or we have a special theme or we're studying kirtan and people pay a fee and they get certain types of food and they get certain types of accommodations. And they're great and they're very, spiritually conscious. But then we have other weekends where people pay nothing and they come and do some service. And sometimes it's like not on the best day, like it's raining or it's cold. We were expecting it to be not raining and not cold.
Right.
And I find that when on the Seva weekends,
Save a weekend.
because there's no expectations, they're just there to do work. That everybody's in a state of bliss. But when you go, like, I'm going to go on a yoga retreat and I'm going to study this, or I'm going to do, then there's like a list of expectations and needs, and these are my needs, and these are my dietary needs, and this is my bedding needs, and I thought I was going to have my own room, and I didn't realize expect, and people and that complaining attitude comes. If people say, I like to just say, on pilgrimage, we on our pilgrimages, they're nice. We're not like sleeping on the ground or in an ashram, but I like to say expect the least to discourage. I actually talk people out of coming because I say, like, if you're going there as a sightseer or don't come. It's not the trip. There's a lot of trips that do that. You can sightsee around India. I wouldn't do it if I were you, but I would. But if you want to go to holy places, there's holy places, but you got to enter like a pilgrim. Or else you put these demands, just like a parent will put expectations on their child, drive the kid to a psychiatrist's couch. But if you do the same thing with the holy Dham, I want to be like this, I want to be taken care of like this, I want to be like this, it will spoil your experience.
Very poignant example there, though. I think this is so right on. In other words, when people go to those Seva weekends, right? It's just like, I'm just going to work hard. It's what most people are trying to avoid on the weekends.
I know. And sometimes I'm always like, look, it's cold and it's raining. I wasn't expecting this. We could work outside. And everybody's like, no, that's okay. And then I have a list of things we have to do. Okay, one of the things we have to do is clean out the sheep barn. And everybody, like 6 people raised their hand. I was like, really? You want to clean up? They want to take the most menial task because they're like, well, I want to do this task. It's the service attitude. I'll get to do this menial task. It's the opposite. Read the verse again, Mara. It's the opposite. 269.
269. Flipping it. Okay.
All
That's
right.
what we're flipping it on its back.
What is night for all beings is a time of awakening for the self-controlled, and the time of awakening for all beings is night for the introspective sage.
Yeah,
That's the sheep barn.
Right.
That's the nighttime.
What is like literally shoveling stool, for the materialist. It's
like the sweetest.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I always tell that story when the Bhakti Center helped us move into our apartment in New York City. I had like 6
Nam
singing
Ras was
monks.
there, right?
Nam Ras was one of
Went
them.
to the interview.
Keshavacharya was. They're all helping me. There's that other guy, that big guy. I can't remember his name.
Om? Was it Om there?
Om Rishikesh, maybe. Bhaktidan. Bhaktidan. They're all helping me move in, and they're singing, they're moving. No one likes to move into an apartment; it's exhausting. But they're singing and they're blissful and they're joyous and you try to offer the money. We don't want your money. Why would we want your money? That would be taking away the ability to serve you if you're paying us money.
Well, I gotta thank Mara and David Charles Wilson and
Vegan
Sean Murphy
Trucks.
Vegan Trucks, because they came to my aid when I needed it most. They served happily.
And I'm sure they did it blissfully.
They did. They were totally blissful the whole time. And Mara, she doesn't look like she's incredibly strong. She's got like power. I had no idea. She's like lifting boxes like she's got one.
All that head banging during Rage Against the Machine. Very strong neck.
No, but it's true. When you serve without expectations, you do it with the right motive. That's where it's the formula that nobody gets, right? It's actually you become happy by serving, not by being served. It's just
Robin Davrodea with the shotgun. All right. Is there more to this, Kaustubha?
there's much more.
Okay, let's go. Keep going. We got 6 minutes.
All right. If we don't finish it today, we'll finish it tomorrow. Okay, so we got pure, independent, always sanctified, lying on the earth. The next one is avaduta vesha.
Ooh, that means his vesha, his clothes were almost like a madman. He's like not an avaduta is like one who's like spiritually not of this world.
Yeah, I mean avaduta. Yeah, often avaduta is used to describe like someone that appears like a total madman. I think, and I'm not expert in Sanskrit or the use of this term necessarily, but I think it also could just be understood like it means one who's really not bound by society's sucker rules, right?
Yeah.
Like the rules that apply to society don't apply to them. So normally you can't like if who do we got here? Like if if who works a regular job here?
Who are Vivi,
Okay, Vivi.
Nicole.
So if Vivi like walked into work, like just wrapped in like a towel, just everyone would look at her like, "What the hell are you doing? You can't come to work like that."
Right. There's like the job, the workplace is expecting something from her.
Yeah, society has expectations that in that role has to live up to. She's supposed to live to, but for Vidura now on pilgrimage, just any rag he could just wrap it around his waist and just go, right? So he's not, when it said he's lying on the earth, it means the physical comforts aren't there, right? It's as simple as can be. When it comes to dressing, as simple as can be, right? And the fact is, and this is important because the principle is that once you start indulging in, if you're not careful, right? Once you start taking on material, what's the word I'm looking for? Like whatever it is, whether it's comforts or opulences, they tend to snowball, right?
Snowball.
And that goes to that story of the yogi who had just had his copings, right? He just had his loincloth. That was it.
Yeah.
But then some.
Oh, tell the story.
We told it before, but yeah. So there's this yogi. He's living just in his little hut maybe or cave or whatever, and all he really owns is these two. He's got one loincloth that he wears, and then the other one that washes and is drying, right? So he's got two pair. But he finds that some mouse is eating away at his loincloth, right?
Happens.
So he says it can happen. So he says, "Oh, you know what? I need to get a cat."
Hashtag Brahmin problems.
Brahmin problems are real, and so he gets a cat to take care of the mouse problem. And once he's got the cat, then you don't have to worry. But now he's got to feed the cat. So now he's got to get a cow so that he can feed the cat.
Right.
And then I think wife was the next one. Right? I think the
You
wife.
get a cat, you get a wife. That they go hand in hand
Yeah,
together.
yeah. So
Mara's like, what the hell?
what kind of sexist? So in any case, that's how the story goes, right? It was snowballing. So it went from
Keeps
just,
adding stuff to his life, basically.
once you but it's a principle like, oh, I want to get this for my apartment, but now I got to get that, and then I got to get that, and then I got to get that, and it kind of snowballs. Right?
It never ends. Yeah.
It never ends. So especially we want to learn that principle on pilgrimage. Like I'm going to live simply. I'm going to dress simply, and I'm going to have simple arrangements.
Well, you know what? Hair is like that too, which is why sadhus
the
generally
hairdressing
either
thing.
they grow out their hair and look
Yeah.
sort of like messy, and it's not to look cool. Like sometimes sadhus have
Yeah.
cool dreaded hair, but it's not to look cool because they just don't touch it.
One way or
they
the other, right?
Or they shave it off.
or you shave it one way or the
like
other.
like we said yesterday, Tom Essig comes to Haridwar with his beautiful locks, and he just shaves it off.
Hmm.
And you come to the holy place, and you just get rid of your hair, so you don't have to deal with your hair.
You know what is?
It's a relief, isn't it? Like
it is a relief. Yeah. I think that the opposite. One even has to be careful of the opposite, though. Like artificially adopting these things and thinking I'm special because I'm just
yeah, you can be proud of your bald head.
or proud of my dreadlocks, or proud of that I dress kind of like a sadhu, right? Really, the most important is the internal. But here, the idea was the external was serving the internal in Vidura's case. So we're not going to finish it today, but he was pure. He was independent. His mind was always sanctified. He was lying on the ground, He was dressed like a mendicant, and we'll continue tomorrow.
I think we're gonna have to call this show Society Suckers.
Come on.
And what's your gotra?
What's your coach?
Pig Pharma or Bashist?
Achuta Gocha. I'm in Krishna's family.
He's actually related to Vyasadeva because Parashara is the father of Vyasadeva.
It goes back farther, yeah. Yes.
Pretty cool. Thanks, everybody.
But you are
Thanks for joining us
You
here.
may not be related to Vyas, but you go back further, back to Krishna, because they all come from Krishna.
Krishna relative, yeah.
Achuta.
By the way, we're not doing a show Sunday or Monday because a bunch of us are going to Cali, Colombia. But no, I was thinking maybe in Cali, Colombia, you could do a bunch of sweet baby Krishnas in the evening
Oh, now you're talking.
because we're going to do it every evening anyway. Why not just do it? So if you're a Patreon member you can do it. Or if you want to become a Patreon member, that's the way you can support us. Patreon.com/Wisdom of the Sages. Any amount of money. We're also accepting precious metals. You can give a precious metal. We're accepting
We don't accept
fragrant
precious
flowers, fragrant flowers, foodstuffs, 4 types of foodstuffs. You can donate, make a monthly donation of grains.
Bag of rice.
We have a Kundalini class today with our friend, the golfer.
Oh, the not evil. He's actually a very saintly golfer.
He's a very saintly golfer. What time is that, Mara?
6 p.m.
Rich Mancuso.
Yeah.
All right, so check that out.
And
in the
Jeffrey
meantime-
Jeffrey Newberger's teaching asana at 10 a.m. And there's a Bhakti recovery group meeting today at noon.
Whoa, there's so much happening.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Chock full of goodies. Thanks, everybody. Shiva.